Here we go. Hello and welcome to another live lunch. It's Thursday again. We are live on Facebook. We are streaming live on LinkedIn. We're even live on YouTube. And once we're all done, we'll be wrapping this up, stripping out the audio and getting it onto the podcast as well, the Social Snippet Show podcast. So another week has gone by. We're on episode 27 now. When we started this live lunch, it was the Green Umbrella team just kind of letting everyone have a little bit of insight into our world and see who we are, who they're talking to on the phone, who's behind the emails, that kind of thing. Jane and I were talking just before we went live, and we were saying, did we ever think we'd still be doing this 27 weeks later? And the answer is definitely no. We didn't. We thought it'd be a temporary thing, but I don't know. It seems to be working for us. We've had a few guests along the way. We should probably start making some plans for like episode 50 and things like that, and some kind of like hallmark episodes, shall we call them, perhaps? I don't know. So it's just the Green Umbrella people today. Emily's off on holiday, so we've been spying on her Instagram, seeing what she's up to this week and enjoying the peace and quiet and the lack of emails, the lack of Slack messages. It's been fantastic. Nobody feels like they've been told off for a whole week. It's been amazing. But I'm sure she won't tune in and watch this because she'll be enjoying her holiday. So we can really say anything we want to about her, can't we?
Pretty much. Emily who?
Oh, bless her. So, guys, what have we been up to this week? Jane, what's been going on with you? What have you been doing this week? Working on, reading about? What have you got to share?
Well, yeah, I mean, this week's been quite busy. I've had a lot of client stuff that I've been working on. I've been doing a bit of advertising stuff with Amanda and stuff like that. And one of the things that I've read up on this week was it was a bit of a roundup of all the new LinkedIn changes that have come about. So this one has been around for a little while, but it's really useful. It's that now on your company page, you can see the names of all the people who follow it. And you've got these little graphs and things in the analytics, and you can sort of look what sector they work in, what sort of job title they've got, that kind of thing, which is really useful for obviously seeing what type of people are following your page. Are they the right people who are following your page? That kind of thing. And so that you can tailor what you're posting towards those people as well, if they are the right kind of people. They have introduced a new feature where you can download some of the data. Unfortunately, you can't download their names, but you can download the sectors they're in and that kind of thing. So how useful it is, I don't really know, but yeah, that's come about. And there's a few changes to events now. You can put events on your LinkedIn page, a little bit at the side to show you your next event and stuff like that. And they're introducing registration forms, so you can get people to put their LinkedIn. It pulls it from their LinkedIn data, but it does allow you to download that afterwards, and then you can email those people or get in touch with them after the event. So yeah, handy stuff.
Absolutely. I think the event stuff's really interesting because they're allowing more people the access to the LinkedIn Live function as well. So being able to go live into an event, if you like, and then get that data out of LinkedIn as well. That's really going to help a lot of people that are kind of looking at LinkedIn and saying, well, I'm doing all this activity, but where's my ROI? I haven't got any business out of it yet. Well, actually, here are your leads. Here are your engaged people that are not only seeing seeing your content, but actually want to join your events, whether it's a webinar, whatever it might be. So yeah, I think that's going to be really, really key. It's interesting as well when you look at the company page followers now, being able to see exactly who's followed the page, pulling that information out as well, just looking at it regularly so that you can do things like, let's say you've had a strategy where you've been inviting your connections to follow the page. Actually, how many of them have done that, have accepted the invitation and are now followers of the page, but also who else are you attracting? So I was looking at this with one of our clients this week, and there were a couple of their competitors were on the list, and we were like, okay, right, so we know who's looking at what then, don't we? You know, and it's that kind of stuff as well. So it is quite interesting information. And as for the data, if you understand who your ideal client is, you can look at that data and you can say, right, it's working for us or it isn't. You know, if it's working, you're going to attract the right people. You're going to see that in that data that you download. If you're kind of looking at who your target client is and looking to shift that maybe because of the changes you've made in your business through the sort of COVID period, then actually that information could be quite useful as well in terms of saying, okay, well, things are going great. This is who we've aimed at, but this is who we're attracting, and let's define who those people are to create that additional avatar. So yeah, I think it's going to be really useful getting that information. What do you reckon, Amanda? You talk to a lot of our clients about LinkedIn stuff as well, don't you?
Yeah, and there's always some debate over the advertising, comparing LinkedIn to Facebook, because the budget's very different. So Facebook advertising, just for those who aren't in the know, minimum budget's £1 a day. For LinkedIn, it's $10 a day, which is about £7 or £8 depending on the exchange rate. So it feels like there's a big difference. But if your cost per sale, or what's the cost of a lead to you, if that's high, then it is worth looking at LinkedIn. And if you can get this, additional information, and it feels like LinkedIn are maybe doing a bit more to help that along. I don't know, behind the scenes, maybe they feel like they're missing out on the monetizing side of things because Facebook have kind of raced ahead of it. So yeah, it might be worth. So those people that have kind of probably popped it to one side, if they can get more detail, it's worth them perhaps revisiting.
Absolutely. LinkedIn advertising is expensive, but in reality, if you think that the things that sell best from a Facebook advertising perspective are around like the £30 price point, it tends to be product related.
Yeah.
If you're selling something that is, let's say, over £100, you're going to use Facebook adverts very much top of funnel to introduce your brands to people. It's about creating that awareness and, making people aware and getting them interested in you. Yep. It's tough to get it beyond that point. You might be able to get someone to a point where you can have a phone call with them or they've joined your mailing list, but that's probably as far as you're going to be able to realistically expect to get someone on Facebook. The thing is with your LinkedIn ads, because of the cost of them, you really need to think of it as a bottom of funnel exercise. So people already know you, they already like you, they already trust you, and now they're seeing a LinkedIn ad. Yeah. When they're like right on the edge of going from that, having made that decision that they need your services, or having got that desire to want to have your product. Okay, when we're trying to push them into that action stage, that's when LinkedIn ads come into play. And that's why actually when you use it in that way, it is so much more effective. So Paul's just said, if I just bring it up on screen, Paul's just said he's never found LinkedIn ads effective. So if I was working with you, Paul, I'd be saying, okay, right, let's draw out your funnel. At what point in that funnel, what point in that journey did you bring in those LinkedIn ads? Because quite often that's what happens. People are bringing it in, right, just to create the awareness, and they don't get anything out of it. Because how do you measure brand awareness?
Oh, it's so difficult, isn't it? In fact, measuring any marketing activity is notoriously hard. Because it's always a multi-touch approach. Very rarely do people see one thing and then make the decision to commit, whether it's to purchase. So, even just thinking of consumer goods, if you're talking about, I don't know, beard grooming stuff, so beard cream or face cream or something. I'm trying to be inclusive to Mark rather than just going like shampoo or face cream. But
nail varnish.
What about the shampoo?
You don't just see one ad and go, great, I'm in. It takes kind of multi-touch approaches. You might see an ad, a special offer at the supermarket before you, and the need, if you've got a cupboard full of those products. So, it takes like 3, 4, 5 plus times of seeing something. So yeah, one LinkedIn ad, one Facebook ad's not going to cut it. I think a lot of people forget you can do retargeting on LinkedIn as well. So you can be same with Facebook. It's called the pixel code in Facebook, where you're collecting visitor information to your website and then retargeting them on Facebook. You can do exactly the same as LinkedIn, can't you? It's called
the insights tag. Yeah,
let's tag. That's it. Yeah, I was struggling to remember. I'm glad you filled in the blank.
No, absolutely. The thing with LinkedIn advertising is, you said Facebook has stormed ahead. Absolutely, Facebook have got it to a T. So everyone else from a social advertising perspective is copying their work. Okay, Facebook's got this kind of functionality. How do we build that functionality into what we do? So it's definitely the way to go. But it is about always mapping it all into that journey, if you like, of someone coming on board, going from never having heard from you at all into buying from you. Actually, we've got to do the right things at the right times to make it happen.
Yeah.
Cool. So, Mark,
Christina.
talk with Mark.
It's been a bit of a mixed week, really. Sort of bit of everything, really. So, obviously, I haven't read anything, as has been pointed out within the team this morning. After a question came through on live chat that, had I read last week's blog, I would have been able to answer. So I hold my hands up.
You haven't done homework, Mark.
I know, terrible. So but no, it's been pretty busy, pretty productive actually for a change, it seems. So I've managed to get quite a lot done in short space of time this week. So it's been a mix of sort of social media, sort of images, a little bit of MailChimp, print again. So we're seeing that still sort of trickling back through people's consciousness of what they're sort of planning and ordering and things like that. So yeah, all good.
Excellent. Is there anything kind of innovative happening print-wise at the minute, or is it tending to be the kind of more standard stuff and people are just kind of like, right, I'm back in the office, things are getting back to normal, let's just do a refresh on the usual business cards, leaflets, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's been pretty much that kind of thing so far. Sort of, people thinking about brochures, where again people are perhaps back in the office. Yeah, they're needing business cards and things like that again. But in terms of perhaps the more creative things, which perhaps come with more perhaps events and sort of bigger campaigns, I think it's going to be probably obviously a little while before that sort of starts to sort of come through again, I think.
It's interesting you mentioned the live chat message that came through. So Jane wrote a blog a little while ago, actually. I'm going to reveal one of our little secrets now that we share with the people that we coach. Basically, Jane wrote this article a little while ago about like what was the best scheduling software and that kind of thing. And we've actually had a couple of questions over the last few weeks where people have just been sort of saying, okay, well, what should I be using? Should I be using Buffer or should I be using Hootsuite? I need something low cost. I need something that can, post to Instagram. I need something that can do this with Google My Business. And so Jane went back and revisited that blog, updated it, republished it, and we put it out again last week, which is a fantastic thing to do, repurposing your content and that sort of thing. But it's really interesting how many people are asking us that question at the minute. I think there's a real push on people going, right, I need to make social work for me right now. I need to invest in that in terms of sort of time and effort. But there's a real kind of understanding that there are ways to do it efficiently. So, obviously, using a scheduling tool is one thing. But one of the things Mark and I have been working on this week as well is having a bit of a plan, if you like. So I've been looking at Instagram. I need to put a bit of effort into my personal Instagram account. Having just launched a podcast, and I'm determined to kind of like brand it in a certain way, and it's supposed to be a hobby, so I'm not supposed to be using Green Umbrella resources to do it. But I'm not the designer, am I, Mark?
No, but now we've got through the interpretation of the brief. I think we've got there.
Well, and this is the thing. So sometimes when you get a design job, Okay, so sometimes when we get a design job from a client, they give us a brief and it's not really a brief. And you have to do a lot of unpicking to figure out what it is the client actually wants. And then the problem that Mark has sometimes is that essentially I am that client. And it's really good when I draw in pictures and say, this is what I want. But because I'm not a creative person in that sense, I know what I want, but I can't see it. It gets really, really hard to communicate that. So when you're working with people like me, Mark, how can I give you a better brief?
I suppose the thing that we were talking about is obviously sometimes examples of certain things. So when we were looking at sort of Instagram grids and things, it was thinking about, what sort of layout that was going to be and other examples of that. And it can be the same on a standard job, because people say, oh, I just want a brochure, or I just want a business card. Yeah, but how do you want that to look? At, what have you seen? What do you like? What are the elements that you like from things that you've experienced through other means? So it's just teasing those information pieces out of people, really. So obviously you've got your general sort of, hopefully most people have got their branding in place, and they've got their logos and fonts and things, which I think we've spoken about at length before, and obviously that's a whole different ball game. But then it's getting that information about, well, okay, what sort of feel is it going to be, what sort of images, how much text needs to be included is often a big one. So sometimes people will get it'll either be one or the other. You sometimes see like an A4 side of text that's got to be condensed down and try and get on an A6 postcard, or there'll be 3 lines of text that's meant to be for like a 5-page, 6-page brochure or something. So it's a difficult one sometimes, but it's just going through that information and teasing out those little bits and bobs that can help make things easier. Sometimes you just got to, it's obviously a time thing, but sometimes with the Instagram thing, it's just a case of doing it and then tweaking it.
So in my defense, I knew I was being difficult with it, but it wasn't complicated. It wasn't just an image. It was an image that needed to work as 3 separate images as well, and that kind of thing. So I was maybe being just a tiny, tiny bit tricky there. But I think it's important, because even for me, when I'm thinking print and design, everything's in my head, and it's about like, how do we get that out there? How do we kind of get that brief together? And, from a social media perspective, when we're looking at strategy that way, we have all sorts of questions that we work through to kind of pick out, to like really get to the objective of it, really dig into the brand, and to really understand what we need to achieve, how we need to sound, how we need to communicate. But when it comes to a brochure is just a brochure, right?
Of course, yeah.
It's a good job you're in separate rooms.
I'm just going to say, there are some really good things about lockdown. Right?
I am coming into the office this afternoon, remember?
Yeah, I might be leaving after this.
All right. That's all right. No, I think the key is trying to highlight to people as well the things that they should be including, which perhaps people always don't necessarily think about. So, they'll be thinking about the content and highlighting certain things, but they won't necessarily think about calls to action. So, a brochure probably doesn't necessarily have strong calls to action in it, but if it's a leaflet or a flyer or something, what is the purpose of that? And that sometimes people don't get. They think, well, just want to advertise my stuff, or I've got a product, but what do you want people to do when they get that piece? Do you want them to visit the website? Do you want them to call you? Do you want them to ask for more information? Do you want them just to simply buy it straight away? What is that enticing thing? So it's thinking about those kind of things as well. Obviously, that's more of a practical thing rather than the Instagram thing where we were trying to make something work, but it's all those kind of bits that come together. So I always sort of think about, design has to work in lots of different ways. It has to work practically. If it's a print thing, it has to work for print, and it also has to be fit for purpose in terms of what the actual purpose of what are you trying to achieve with it. So it's got to be all of those things, really, like most of the time anyway.
Do you know, I think something you've just said there that's worth picking up on as well is, in terms of the value that we bring to the clients we work with, we don't just talk theory, we're very practical, and that's the feedback we get as well when people watch the webinars and that kind of thing. It's we don't just talk about the theory of something, we're actually saying these are the buttons you need to press, this is what you need to do it yourself, this is where it fits within the marketing piece, this is the stage at which this needs to come in. And actually, Amanda, you talked about touch points as well. It's something like 12, 13 touch points right now that the marketers are saying we need to achieve in order to convert that suspect, if you like. They're not even a prospect at this stage. That person that you suspect could be your ideal client. We need to reach them 12, 13 plus times. And we can do that through social. And we can take them so far, and then we can start to attack them with the email marketing, and we can take them a step further. And then actually, that's when the kind of more tangible things come in. That's where the print really starts to matter. And it's so important that because this is almost, your print's like the first tangible thing for a lot of service-led businesses when they're trying to convert someone. So actually the brand is everything at that point. The purpose is everything. If someone's interested in working with us and we're going to send something in the post and we've taken them all the way through that journey and they believe that we're fun and we're full of energy and we're practical and we're really going to be able to help them, and we send them something on a flimsy bit of A5 with a crappy print on it that costs pennies, we've immediately devalued our service. They're not going to buy at that point.
Yeah.
I was going to say, again, it has to be fit for that purpose. So, if you're doing, I'm just trying to think, say, I'm trying to think of mass leaflet ones, but estate agents always spring to mind because they're basing things on a numbers game a lot of the time if they're literally door dropping. So you might find the quality is perhaps not as good, but it's just literally get it out there. But if you're sort of targeting someone, or you're trying to obviously promote a higher end service, then that print also needs to represent that as well.
Absolutely.
Health clubs, dog walking, anything like that needs to be a nice joined up campaign, basically. As you say, you need to know that you're in safe hands and it's a proper, it's that kind of feeling of legitimacy as well, isn't it? So if it looks amateur, the design's rubbish and it doesn't tie in with, a website or a Facebook page where you don't have those elements, you've basically just burnt your money. There's no point in doing it.
I think things have changed, certainly even maybe the last 10 years or so, where, you'd still perhaps 10 years ago get some horrible sort of black and white flyer through the door or something, where they've basically been photocopied. But I think even, I think a lot of people have realised that, that doesn't, entice people to use their services anymore. You've got to have, a bit more about it really now, even, for Bob the Builder and, people like that sort of want to put their services out there. It is about, like you said, about trust. So it's, you've got to have that sort of bit of branding and visual sort of identity in there, and as well as the message to give that message.
Absolutely. So Susie's got a lovely comment here for us. I just want to pick up.
Too much. You're blocking me out.
I think she's done it on purpose.
Yeah, I think that as well.
So Susie works for the NHS, and she said that they are really trying to elevate their resources so that they look more than a Word document printed 15 years ago. I really like her last sentence here, because she says it's helping to place more value on their work, more respect, more professionalism. Obviously, we know Susie, so we've got a bit of insight into what she does, and I think it's very much about internal marketing in her situation, getting that buy-in from her peers within the NHS as well. That's right, Amanda, isn't it? Or have I got that one wrong?
No, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. And they've been busy doing back to school and sort of, guiding people who are prepping school age children. And again, as you say, we know Susie. I know her pretty well. So she's my sister, just in case. But I've done work with her on marketing and branding, and even down to things like I was kind of like, please don't use Times New Roman as the fonts. It's not in the 90s, people, and that it does matter. It does matter. So yeah, we've done some work on that. But in bigger companies, and particularly public sector, you're so constricted in what you can do. And obviously, something like the NHS is just it is such an enormous brand. Almost nobody owns it. Well, the public own it, but you can't just run off and kind of different departments print and do their own thing. They have very rigid guidelines about how it's used, and bigger companies will have that. For a reason, because people can go off in any company and just use brands as they have to. But so it is good to have some brand guidelines. So if someone's coming to Mark, they know, and they can say, right, these are the colours that we use, this is the font we use, and there is some consistency and, well, yeah, as Sue said, professionalism and respect.
Yeah.
And then Paul has just said use Comic Sans.
Sometimes you can do without people, can't you?
Yeah.
I
think we need to
on my stream today. So we've got, I think we've gone international, because I've seen one of the viewers has popped up, Jake in Australia. So hello, Australia. Green Umbrella's gone international.
Well, Spencer's commented. Spencer Lodge has commented on LinkedIn as well. He's over in Dubai, so Daventry today. Who knows where we'll be tomorrow?
Exactly. Daventry to Dubai to somewhere in Australia beginning with D that I can't think of.
Yeah. So Amanda, what have you been up to this week?
Oh, a bit of everything this week, to be honest. Yeah, real spread. So working on a lovely joined up marketing campaign with one of our clients, which is print mail, Facebook advertising, website landing pages as well, so we can really see who's clicking on what and going where, so we can measure the activity, making sure their organic social channels are all up to date as well, email marketing. So yeah, a really nice joined up piece, which is great, because as we said, sometimes people will rely so heavily on one area and it just doesn't work. Onboarding this week as well, so we've had some lovely new clients joining us, so we're just making sure we're getting started. And I had a really great chat with one client, and he was like, oh, just put your spin on it. And I had to point out, I said, well, no, I can't, because my spin is not your brand. I can use my language, but that's not necessarily going to attract your clients. So I need to kind of put that hat on and become you, as it were.
Do we had a should I tell this story or not? I probably shouldn't, in honesty. We had a I'm going to anyway.
Change names to protect identities.
Typical style I've started, so you can't stop me now. We had a client come on board because they love our blog, and they've followed the blog, and if I go and dig in and look at the stats, they're always opening our emails, they're always clicking through, and they've introduced us to lots of people over the years, and they're real advocates for the brand. And they started on they were going to start blogging, and they asked us to write a blog for them. Their business is quite serious in tone, let's say, in comparison with ours. What they do is not something where you get to be kind of, bright colours and a little bit wacky at times. And when they got the initial blog from us, they were really disappointed, because they thought it would be written like one of our blogs. And it was kind of like, yeah, but our brand values are very different to yours. Our client base is very different to yours. It's like the businesses couldn't be any different. and they were really disappointed because they thought they were going to get one of our blogs. And it really made me think about how we sell some of those services. The client you're talking about, Amanda, I remember because I'd started talking to them right at the beginning, and when they were looking at working with us, and I said, one of our goals is to freak you out. You need to be uncomfortable, because when you read that post that's been written by somebody else, you need to be able to hear your own voice. It needs to sound like you. You need to read it and think like, oh my God, but I didn't say that. But, it's actually quite, it's like when someone's impersonating you. It is a little bit when it's for comedy effect, yes, it's funny, but it's still uncomfortable. Well, in this scenario, there is no comedic effect, so
it's a bit stalkery in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But the thing is, if we've got it right, that's what the experience should be. Our clients should be able to read the content that we've written and hear their own voices in their head.
Yeah. And there's a massive element of trust as well, that they need to place their trust in us, that we can act as them. And sometimes when we're starting the ball rolling, not always, but sometimes when we're acting as somebody, we might do an introductory message and actually sign off as the person involved. That's always tricky, because the amount of times you want to go, kind regards, Amanda, and actually you need to be putting kind regards, Bob or Jenny or whoever it might be. But that's kind of a very starter. But that you have to have that trust and know the client needs to feel that you can be them. So I was chatting to a potential client this week who's in the HVAC sector, which is heating, ventilating, air conditioning, that kind of thing. And ordinarily you might be like, that's quite a niche sector. How can we use that language? And potentially that's what my husband does for a living. So I actually know a reasonable amount about it. So I was able to kind of say, well, yeah, we know this, and this. So, but they need to have that comfort that we can hold our own in that kind of conversation. You don't have to know literally all the ins and outs and be able to go on site and wire up whatever you need to do. But
Gosh, I'm not.
Pop down and put this already on site. But yeah, you need to be able to do the sort of early part of it and have that confidence that you can talk with authority, even if you're a little bit blagging it, but enough to kind of hold that and then say, right, client, I need to pass this over to you now. I've teed it up, over to you.
I think that's the thing as well. And with the activity we do, it's incredibly hard to measure. It's incredibly hard to measure the response, but our job is to tee them up. That really is. And then be able to identify for the client, say, right, here, here's one for you to knock out the park, kind of thing. And, that's where the communication is so important. And we've got some clients that really, really get that. And they've been on board with us a long time for that reason. But it's kind of, we have to train our clients into that's how this is going to work. It's quite tricky that people come on board and they kind of think, right, I'm just going to give you some money, you're going to give me some leads. Wouldn't it be nice if it worked that way?
Oh yeah, it'd be perfect.
It would be fantastic. One of our clients sent me a WhatsApp message last week, the week before, and that they're like, just so you know, just had a lead come through from, and they mentioned a specific element that we've delivered for them. It's going to be worth £150,000 to their business if they win the work. And it's kind of like, if we could have that happen every day, 10 times a day, how cool would that be? But it is about understanding that this is a process, and it's a process you just have to keep investing in. There is no, it's a campaign, we're going to stop it at that point and look at the results, because it's like the more you're doing it, the more the ball's rolling, and the more it's picking up pace, and it takes time. It's a big old machine we've got to get moving.
Yeah. There's no overnight success. It's very rare, even if like something goes viral, so even if you've got a celebrity or something that goes viral that's had a thing. So there was something this week that I was reading about somebody called Molly May, somebody. She's I don't really know who she is, what she does. I think she might be from reality TV, but she did this amazing piece of marketing where she was giving away, like, I think it was about £8,000 worth of designer goods. So to be fair, not our demographic, but the response to it was staggering. You know, she got sort of basically 100+ time multiples, so 100% more hits with what she was doing. So whether that was on her YouTube channel, on her Instagram feed. So, you know, but that's not an overnight success. So yes, she got some amazing results from it, but apparently she's been building up. Apparently it was when she was 16, it was her dream to have a YouTube channel. You know, for most of us watching, probably when we were 16, YouTube didn't exist, but that was her goal. I mean, I guess she's in her 20s now. So if you think, you know, that's 8-9 years. So even that's not an overnight success. There is no magic bullets in marketing. You know, if there was, we would all be doing it. So it takes effort. It takes a bit of time.
It's consistent. It's consistency and it's commitment. Absolutely, consistency and commitment. It's, you know, people kind of they want to get into the Facebook advertising stuff, and they think, actually, if I throw a couple of grand at this, or even a couple of hundred at this, you know, I've had clients want to throw 50 quid at it and think they're going to get results. And it's like, you know, we've got to be really clear what we want out of this. But if we're expecting a quick turnaround, it's not going to happen. Okay, we've got a question here from Adam. So how do you know that they have the language and tone correct for their market, especially if they're looking for something different? We talk a lot about alter egos in marketing, as is the same with habits. We have to change our identity with being something different depending on what we need or want to achieve. So obviously we advise our clients on their tone, and, you know, from what we know and our experiences, and, you know, we work within a niche. So, you know, one of the great things with working with a niche is that you really understand how best to talk to those people. So I think that's really important if you are looking for marketing services, that you know, you don't just need an agency, you need an agency that understands your market, because they can then advise you in the best possible way. You know, for the clients that we work with outside of the recruitment sector, because that's our niche, you know, it's very much about getting them to explain to us who their ideal client is, and us ask the touchy-feely questions, really, because they will tell us, they already know, you already know how to talk to your clients. It's just documenting that is where it becomes a bit tricky. So our job, it really is to tease that out of people and then say, well, actually, you know, you've said this type of communication works, so we need to make sure that we're building that into your tone. There's a brand that we work with where everything they do is in block capitals, and the market that in fact, it's not even about the market they serve. I would say there's very few people that like to be shouted at.
Yeah, there's a real perception capitals is that you're yelling, basically.
Yeah, and so, you know, we've had to kind of really, you know, branding is, your brand covers so many elements, and, you know, it is look and feel, but, you know, that tone is so important as well. So it is about having those conversations and just advising accordingly. Everything you do to attract a client is not about you. It's not about your business. It's about them. And I think that's probably the biggest thing as well is, you know, actually your audience, what do they want? What do they need? How do they like to be spoken to? And like I said, you know, we can have the conversation. We know the answers to those questions. It's just getting it documented, which can be quite tricky for some people.
And it evolves, I think, as well. So when you're working on behalf of somebody, whether it's writing a blog in their tone of voice, using their language, or just a social media piece, post, or an email chain, it really evolves over time. So, you know, I remember I was working with somebody, did sort of copyright a blog based on a webinar they'd done. You know, the first few came back, they had quite a lot of edits in there, and it's very, very, very rare to get something back and have it signed off immediately. especially if you're kind of working with somebody who's a bit of a marketer as well, because there's always personal style in there. But this had quite a few edits and I was a bit gutted about it. But certainly sort of by third, fourth, fifth article, it just felt so much more natural for us both, you know, using the language, and you just sort of, you really get to grips with it. So I think it does evolve over time. I think it's, you know, if you can be there or thereabouts to start with and not too sensitive to feedback.
Do you know, a great question when I'm working with someone that's really struggling with this? So I say, okay, right, you know, let's work through it. So, yeah, although we do this for our clients, we do a lot of coaching as well. And in these conversations, I always go kind of like to the coaching elements of it, or the coaching examples. And the question is, you know, where's the value? That's the question. So especially when it comes to email marketing things, when it comes to, you know, blogs, that sort of stuff. And I'm working with someone at the minute and they're creating a nurture sequence. So they've sent me the first couple of emails of their nurture sequence. And I've immediately sent it back and said, where's the value? There's nothing of value in this email for me as the recipient. You know, you're just telling me again what you do. I don't care about what you do at this point. You know, I need to know your brand and know you're going to help me. What you actually do at that point is almost secondary. You know, actually, you need to be able to measure my engagement with you. I'm only going to engage with you if you give me something of value. Where is the value? I've kind of bounced it back a couple of times, and we've now got, you know, the first few emails of this chain are really strong in terms of they are actually nurturing the prospect, you know, and it is about, you know, kicking off your shoes, putting yourself in the, you know, in the shoes of that ideal client, of that prospect, and going, right, now what do I need? When I receive this piece of information, what am I getting from it? Okay, you know, what's being delivered to that prospect? What are they going to engage with? Why are they going to engage? How are they going to feel about that piece of marketing? Is it going to have any impact whatsoever? Is it just another email they're going to delete? You know, and it is really interesting taking people through that journey and getting them to see it from the flip side. So Susie's back.
Do some work, Susie.
Okay, so Susie uses focus groups and patient feedback to help them engage better. Audience varies throughout the day, and therefore the approach has to change. Absolutely. And, you know, this is the thing. It's that we encourage our clients to look essentially every 3 months, we try and do a review with them. The clients that are most engaged with us from a service perspective, we do every 3 months. Other than that, we... do you know, so I got distracted then because it looked like Susie had put Roofie 6. I was thinking, like, she's NHS, medical, drugs, and now she's talking about roofing people, maybe. I'm like, I didn't know where we were going then. Sorry, I get distracted so easily, don't I? I need to do something about
she can't type, and she's told me we're being rude now.
Oh, okay. I've completely lost my train of thought now.
Focus groups. You were talking about.
So
every 3 months. Yeah,
every 3 months, and like I said, the clients that are on kind of like lower level service with us, you know, it's maybe every 6 months or annually that we kind of do, you know, reviews with them, if you like, in terms of the branding and the target client and all that sort of stuff. But you need to look regularly, because things will change, habits will change. If you've built your avatars correctly, if you truly understand your ideal client, you'll have an idea of their habits and their interests and their behaviors. Well, actually, the behaviors of our ideal client 12 months ago versus today, you know, it's completely different. You know,
it will change through, you know, even, I know no one wants to talk about pandemic and lockdown, we're all a bit over it, but of course habits have changed now because people are generally back at school and back at work. So, you know, we all had a lot more, well, not free time, but we all had a lot more time. We were at home, weren't we, a few months ago, you know, and because people are back at work and back to school, when the times they're online has changed, talking about sending email nurture sequences or email campaigns, you know, everyone kind of goes, what's the best time to send an email? And as we've often discussed, there's no magic time, yet logically it's better to send it when people are awake. You know, Saturday night is not a great time, so there are times that it's just not good to send it. But you know, if you sort of sending Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are generally quite good days. But when we have amazing hot weather, if you were going to send it like on a Thursday afternoon and we were still in lockdown, people were kind of, by that point, they were like, too hot, I'm going in the garden with the kids. So no, don't send it then. But again, now that will change because the weather's changing. So it will, as you say, it can change from season to season, month to month. So you do need to vary.
Absolutely. Cool. Okay, well, we're coming up to time now. Anyone got anything to wrap up with? Anything?
No.
No.
Oh, should we finish it there? Do you know, it's like it's a funny one this week because we like nothing much is really going on. Because, you know, it's like the kids are back to school.
There's no big news in the world of marketing and social media, no big launches. So everyone's just getting back into the swing of things, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of stuff happening, but it's not anything we've got access to yet. So it's hard for us to talk about it. With the TikTok US stuff is, you know, it's kind of gone a little bit quiet. And, you know, the Oracle's won the deal kind of thing. And that's about as much as we can say on that one. So it's been a bit of a slow news week, if you like, for us. And, you know, just appointments wise, client wise, it's all a bit sort of strange this week. I've been spending a lot of time interviewing people. So I think probably next week we'll talk a little bit around, you know, the skills you need to run social media for a business. You know, maybe some of the observations, if you like, out of us going through that recruitment process there. But yeah, I think for this week, I think we're all done. Have we got a guest next week? Have we got someone joining us next week for live lunch?
We've got Susan Rose joining us next week.
Susan Rose. Oh, fantastic. So tune in for that one. Susan Rose is a English-born China producer, designer. She's been a long-standing client and we love her to bits. So I'm sure she'll have some views as well in terms of how to make social media work for a business.
Yeah. She's got fantastic social marketing, her Instagram marketing, because her products are very visual. You know, she's an artist basically, isn't she?
Yes.
It just so happens that she's an artist and that transfers onto Bone China. So yeah, very visual products. So she's got some great social marketing that she can talk about.
I mean, to be fair, she's had a fantastic social media coach for several years now. Of course. Brilliant. Cool. Right. That's it then, folks. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week, Thursday, 12 noon. And Emily will be back with us. We'll have Susan Rose with us and we'll be talking more about social media marketing and just being in business in general. See you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.